Star Trek is racist, but not in the way you think. Star Trek is a remarkably inclusive franchise, breaking barriers and promoting peaceful coexistence for over half a century now. But how does Star Trek treat fictional races? And yes, I know that sci-fi likes to use the term speciesist for this sort of thing, but when we're talking about real-life issues, speciesism means something a little different. So I'm using the word racism because that's how these issues manifest themselves in our real lives.
Suspicions? With the Ferengi around? Always.
That's it. That's my brooch. But how did you know?
Docterians are distant relatives of the Ferengi.
They are a relatively benign species. Don't they seem a little slow?
They're Andorians, Captain. They're known for their suspicious and volatile nature.
Star Trek regularly paints alien species as homogeneous and two-dimensional. While there are definitely some notable exceptions to this, aliens in Star Trek often embody only one or two traits, and they tend to all dress and act completely alike. And the characters act as though these simplistic depictions are objectively true.
Actually, I just welcomed Ensign Mendon on board. He certainly seems eager to please.
Well, that's a Benzite trait.
What if Riker had said, "I noticed Geordi is pretty good at basketball," and Picard was like, "Well, that's an African trait." We only accept this sort of language in Star Trek because we're dealing with fictional aliens. But take those same lines and replace the alien names with real ethnic groups, and it's pretty unsavory.
What's this mean about no Klingon friends?
Exactly that. They're a bad influence on you. They're prone to violence. They keep you out till all hours. Why don't you find some nice Vulcan friends?
But why does Star Trek do this? Couldn't Star Trek make nuanced alien cultures that are as diverse and as rich as humanity? I think they could, but the way that Star Trek explores humanity is through the aliens that our heroes encounter.
Of all the species we've made contact with, yours is the only one we can't define. You have the arrogance of Andorians, the stubborn pride of Tellarites. One moment you're as driven by your emotions as Klingons, and the next you confound us by suddenly embracing logic.
It's the only way they can depict a better human future, but still explore our vices in meaningful ways. For instance, the Ferengi are not Ferengi. They're a metaphor for greed and misogyny. I think it's a really effective storytelling technique to isolate these specific qualities of humans so we can study them dramatically through encounters with alien life. But I think this method of storytelling has its failings. We might think that there's no real-world consequence of depicting a fictional race as monolithic and two-dimensional, but this constant barrage of, say, Klingons looking and acting exactly alike does take its toll. When we see a hairless, blue-eyed Klingon with piercings and Into Darkness, many Trekkies were upset that Klingons were somehow changed in the reboot films. We've seen bald Klingons. We've seen Klingons with no facial hair. And most of these Klingons are the familiar variety anyway. But we've been so indoctrinated by the interchangeable racial stereotype of the TNG-era Klingon that any deviation is suddenly unacceptable. In reality, that could be just as offensive as objecting to any character that doesn't live up to some racial stereotype.
Your credibility is stretched beyond belief. Romulan defector is almost a contradiction in terms.
And if an uninformed, monolithic, two-dimensional depiction of a fictional race of people is enough to affect the way we see them, how much more important is it to be careful of the way we approach and talk about real human beings who are different from us? What do you think about the depiction of aliens in Star Trek? Is there a problem here, or am I making something out of nothing? How about some more diversity in alien species? Let me know. And if you like videos like this, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of the new videos I post every week. And if you really like my videos, consider supporting me on Patreon. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.